Hey there, this is Jacques from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. So last week we didn't have an episode with all the information coming out of PAX and Battle for Zendikar spoilers, but now here we are a week later, and those spoilers have already started to impact the market. So let's jump in and start looking at the cards. We'll start off with Standard, and let's look at the top 5 cards that lost value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Demonic Pack. It lost 67 cents, bringing it down to $5. This enchantment's seen some fringe play in Standard, but the deck that plays it or decks that play it haven't really reached the point where it's taken down a major tournament at this point. Now watch for this one after rotation and may get a second chance and be a little more powerful after we lose the cards from the Theros block. Number 4 is Goblin Pile Driver. This lost 70 cents, bringing it down to $5.25. There was so much hype around this card during the pre-release of Magic Origins that no doubt it probably couldn't live up to the hype that it was garnering. This particular card could still find a home. There were decks that tried to make it work with Rabble Master and Standard, but it just never quite got there. Again, watch this one post-rotation. At some point, as Modern progresses and more cards get added to that pool, this could become a viable card for a Goblin deck. Keep an eye on it. This might be a good long-term investment, especially considering you can pick up a playset of these for like $20. Next is Nissa Vastwood Seer, and she lost 75 cents, bringing her down to $26. This is just stabilization. This card is seeing a lot of play in Standard, and I think it's going to continue seeing play. Out of all the Planeswalkers, I would say this one and Jace will probably see the most play after rotation. So this is a good investment. It may still drop a little more just because packs are getting open at $26 is a pretty lofty price tag. But be careful because as we get closer to Battle for Zendikar with Landfall, this card may also start to look more desirable. Coming at number 2 is Days Undoing. This lost 84 cents, bringing it down to $6.88. This card made a little bit of a splash the first week it was released in Standard. Didn't do anything after that. Hasn't really shown up as a force yet in Modern. At some point, I'm sure there's going to be a Modern deck that figures out what to do with this. As far as Standard goes, watch after rotation. Maybe something will happen with this. However, I don't really see this as a Standard card as much as more of an Eternal format type card. And in all honesty, probably more of a Commander or casual card. Not a bad card to speculate on if you think that post-rotation or eventually in Modern it may find its niche, especially if you're only spending like $6 to $7 for one of these. This might not be a bad time just to add them to your collection. And the number 1 card that lost value this week in Standard is Liliana, Heretical Healer. She lost $1.23, bringing her down to $19.94. And again, just normal stabilization. She is seeing Standard play. She's going to continue to see Standard play. I do think, looking at the amount of play she's seeing, this is probably more in line of a $15 to $16 card as opposed to a $20 card. So I do think she's going to come down a little bit more, but she's still a fine card, and she's still going to garner some value even post-rotation. All right, let's look at the top 5 cards that have gained value this week. Coming in number 5 is Wooded Foothills, going up 62 cents to $16.96. It's a fetch land. They're all going up. They're all going to continue to go up. Pick up your playsets if you haven't already. That's all I can really tell you. When they do leave Standard, they may take a little bit of a dip, but at the same time, who knows how high they're going to be at that point. It's just not going to matter. This is every week that you don't buy these is still the best week to buy them, if that makes sense. They're just going to keep going up. So get your playsets as soon as possible if you haven't already. Coming in number 4 is Animus Awakening. This went up $1.24, bringing it up to $2.73. And obviously this is coming from the Battle for Zendikar spoilers. Landfall is a mechanic. It's a thing, so players are going out and they're grabbing their copies of this because it works so great with Landfall, and it's a pretty affordable card. My only hesitation with this card is simply the fact that Standard decks don't really like to rely on other cards. So basically, for this card to be good, you have to have some other Landfall cards in play that are going to help you win the game. And that is a level of variance that a lot of Standard decks might not be able to afford to play. So having said that, this is still going to be a really good Commander card. This is going to be an awesome casual card. So if you can pick these up for $2 or $3, certainly doesn't hurt. You'll have them, and you never know. I could be wrong. If Landfall really, really strongly gets pushed and we start seeing cards over the next couple of weeks that back that up, this one could go up in value even more. Number 3 is See the Unwritten, and this went up $1.75, bringing it up to $8.73. And again, this one is a way to find big creatures and put them directly in play, which of course is going to work very well with Eldrazi. So that's the idea of this card. If you want to cheat that Ulamog into play and start trying to deck your opponent, this is a good way to do it for just 6 mana. And you might even be able to hit 2 big creatures with this card if you have Ferocious. So, is it going to pan out in Standard? It could very well. Maybe not to hit Ulamog necessarily, but just to hit some big creatures in some decks going forward. I mean, Eldrazi's, it just depends on how much they're pushed. If they're pushed and they're going to be viable, then there could be a Standard deck out there that is going to deal with the variance of perhaps missing with this card. But if you're running enough of them and they're strong enough to run a lot of them and you have other ways to cast them, say some strong mana ramp, that deck could exist. It is a little bit of speculation, but it could exist. So again, it's not super expensive if you want to pick up a playset just in case it becomes part of the metagame. It's not going to run you that much. You can probably grab these cards still for between $7 to $9. Number 2 is Shaman of the Forgotten Way. This one went up $5.15, bringing it up to $8.80. And of course, it's probably pretty obvious why. Again, it goes back to Eldrazi. This is going to let you put 2 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. And of course, you can only spend this on creature spells. It only costs 3, so he's a great mana ramp guy to have in your deck for Eldrazi. This one probably has the most potential of seeing some Standard play in the post-rotation world, just because you have Eldrazi, but also you still have some really big creatures from the previous block that are multicolors, so this just kind of works well with that as well. So it could fit into maybe a few different types of decks after we lose the Theros block. This one is probably my pick to have the most chance of being played post-rotation. So again, pick them up now. I mean, they're only $8.80, so you can probably find these between $7 and $9. Again, just good to have them on hand in case you need them. And the number 1 mover of the week is Jace of Vern's Prodigy, and he's back up to $40. He was at 40, he went down to about 30, and now he's back up. He increased $5.16 this week. He's just seeing tons of play, and he's seeing tons of play in a lot of Standard decks. I don't really think that's going to change post-rotation. I mean, maybe it will lessen a little bit. There could be other cards that come in that are powerful, but really, he costs 2. What is going to be more powerful the 2 slot when you're playing blue than this? So this thing is going to continue to get play. I did see it get some modern play as well, and there was even a vintage deck in the Eternal Championships that was trying to make this work, but didn't really seem to work, at least not in that deck. But definitely candidate for modern and is going to be a force in Standard for quite some time. All right, speaking of modern, let's see what cards lost value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Noble Hierarch. She lost $1.13, bringing her down to $38.38. And, Modern Masters just did a reprint. This particular version that we're looking at is the Conflux version, but with the extra Modern Masters copies out there, and it was reprinted at the rare level, the demand is just down slightly for this card. It probably will go down a little more, maybe get down to about $30, $35 before it stabilizes and it's going to start creeping up again. So don't panic about this price drop. Number 4 is Arcbound Ravager, and this is the Dark Steel version of it. It lost $1.20, bringing it down to $43.93. Again, don't worry about Arcbound Ravager. This has been the craziest card on the list. It seems like it just goes back and forth. One week it's gaining $1, $2. Next week it's losing $1, $2. But it's staying right around the $40 to $45 mark. It's not really going anywhere. So I don't know why it's fluctuating the way it is. But if you're in the market to play Affinity, you're going to need these. So if you can pick them up for like $40, it's probably a decent deal. Number 3 is Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre. He went down to $1.43, bringing him down to $24.74. It's kind of interesting. He's the first Eldrazi we're seeing on this countdown. We're about to see another one. But it's not really in relation to Battle for Zendikar as much as it's in relation to Modern Masters 2015 reprinting these. And since these cards are mythic rares, but they are very expensive to play, decks don't want a whole lot of these cards, so they're simply going to look for one-ofs, and enough one-ofs were open for people that it's going to satisfy demand for a little bit. Again, now that Modern Masters is starting to dry up, these will start to climb again at some point. Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. So he went down to $1.66, bringing him down to $31.96. This again is the Rise of the Eldrazi version, and all the stuff I just said about Ulamog just applies here. Exact same story. And our number one card that lost value this week was Tarmogoyf, and this is the original Modern Masters version of Tarmogoyf that lost the value. It went down $5.25, bringing it to $171.91. So just weird economy with these Tarmogoyfs, especially the two Modern Masters version. This version has been very, very pricey, and I realize part of that is because the quality of the Modern Masters 2015 version is in question a little bit, so this is the better card to have for a long-term investment and just to make sure that it just doesn't have defects in its printing. So it's going to be a little more expensive, but it actually got a lot more expensive. Now that's starting to come down, and you're going to see the Tarmogoyfs are starting to kind of come closer together in price value. All right, let's look at the top 5 modern cards that have gained value this week. Number 5 is Kara, Great Glass Spinner. She went 55 cents to $11, and this is a way to defend your creatures. So where is this coming from? Well, we know Ally is going to be a big deal in Battle for Zendikar, and there's a lot of already printed great allies in Modern. So this is a little bit of speculation that this could be a way to protect your allies in an ally deck in Modern. So interesting to see what will happen, if it will pan out. There were also some other allies from the original Zendikar that saw some movement this week. They didn't hit our top 5, but they're out there and they're being traded. So keep an eye out for that strategy to unfold, especially as we see more ally cards spoiled. Number 4 is Life from the Loam. Went up 57 cents, bringing it up to $8.77. This deck is seeing a little bit of a popularity surge in the Eternal formats. I've seen a lot of this played in Legacy recently, and also Vintage versions of this. So I think this card is being driven a little more by Legacy and Vintage than it is Modern, but it is, of course, still a Modern viable card as well. So it went up a little bit. Keep an eye on this one. And typically this is where Life from the Loam kind of sits between the $5-10 mark. I don't really see it going beyond that. Number 3 is the Modern Masters 2015 Tarmogoyf. So the first Modern Masters one lost value, this one gained value. It went up 65 cents, bringing it to $154.93. So you can see it's still a lot cheaper of a deal than the previous version, or really any other version of Tarmogoyf. But at the same time, collectors are a little wary of it because of some of the issues with production. Now, if you just want to play with Tarmogoyfs, this is the one to go with, and that's why it's seeing a price increase. More and more people are submitting to that they rather spend $150, $155 instead of $170 to $175 for their Tarmogoyf. Well, yeah, it's going to save you a big chunk of money if you're trying to buy a play set of these things. So, yeah, why not? Even if they're not in perfect condition, it is what it is, right? So, because of that, this price will continue to creep up. The price of the other ones will probably continue to creep down. Coming in at number 2 is Scalding Tarn. So this is a fetch land, Zendikar fetch land. It went up $1.16, bringing it up to $80.75. These all continue to still be very volatile. So this one's increased, but they're all really seeing pretty decent levels of fluctuation to kind of hit their correct spot. I don't really think this has anything to do with expeditions. I think this is just simply people want the Zendikar fetch lands. They know they're not going to be reprinted, at least in the immediate future, so they're biting the bullet and they're going out there and they're purchasing their Scalding Tarns. And the number 1 mover this week is Magus of the Moon, and he's gone up $1.51, bringing him to $27.42. He's the poor man's Blood Moon, so if you don't want to fork out $40, $45 for a Blood Moon, you can fork out $25, $30 for Magus of the Moon. In some decks, though, he is better. If you're playing a more aggressive deck and you want the 2/2 creature on the ground that could get in for some damage early on, then he's even better than Blood Moon, but he is more easy to remove, so that's the downside to using this card over Blood Moon, but it definitely has a home. There's decks that are going to prefer this over Blood Moon, so expect him to continue to creep up to get close to Blood Moon prices. But yeah, it's a great card regardless, and it's going to keep going up. This is one, if you need them, yeah, you're probably going to have to bite the bullet and pick these up at about $25 to $30 range. So that is our market watch for this week. Over the next couple weeks, depending on how spoilers go, don't know if we'll be able to squeeze Market Watch in or not. But what I'm going to do is if there's any day over the weekends that spoilers don't come out, I'll try to squeeze an episode in. It just depends on how fast and furious spoilers come. Worst case scenario, we'll definitely do another Market Watch after spoilers are over and after the set review's over and see how everything was impacted. Also, after Battle for Zendikar comes out, I do want to start thinking about doing some Market Watches for foil cards as well as Eternal formats, Vintage, Legacy, definitely Legacy. So let me know what you guys think about that. Seems to be, for the feedback I've gotten so far, it seems to be a good idea. So as always, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a good day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. These videos are made possible by viewers just like you through Patreon. Please check out our Patreon page by clicking on the top right. Down below we have more links to quality Magic the Gathering content, and if you're interested in seeing trading cards open that aren't Magic the Gathering, check out the link to our trading card channel, Heroes and Legends Trading Cards. Thanks and have a great day.